I was going to jump into the Transformers first quarter Hasbro report and everything that's going on with the company right now in the midst of everything with the Big V, when a big piece of news that pretty much happened at the end of the first quarter report and was only told to media companies, but now it is broke right now, and it is that from Deadline gives us the amazing news in relation to a animated Transformer movie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the article. It's not very long, and then we could break down what's going on here. So it says here, Hasbro Entertainment Studio 1 or Studio E1 and Paramount have quietly hired Josh Cooley, fresh off winning an Oscar for the Best Animated Film for Toy Story 4, to direct a big-scale Transformer theatrical prequel that sources said focuses on an origin story. Takes place on Cybertron, a planet from which the good guys and the bad guys come from, and revolves around a relationship between Optimus Prime and Megatron. The script is written by Andrew Barrer and Gabriel Ferrari, the scribes who did production for the work of Ant-Man. Actually, it's not Ant-Man, but I'll get into that. And were credited for writers on Ant-Man and Wasp. Hasbro and E1 are running point on the production of this film. The film is separate and apart from the live-action Transformer film series and the Bumblebee spin-off, and those continue to be on fast track. But as studios take stock in restarting production, it is becoming clear that making a big-scale animated feature is easier than a live-action tentpole because of so much of the work can be done with respects to, quote, social distancing. That is an issue that is started the acceleration for the Transformers animated film. Cooley is overseeing the final draft with the writers right now. Those scribes have been working on an animated film for several years, going back to when they joined as the writer's room meant for the expanded Transformer universe. Producers are expected to be Lorenzo de Bonaventura and that whole crew from Hasbro, more or less. And that is that. So let's break this down. So number one, so this means that the next movie we're probably going to be seeing is a animated one. Obviously, probably CG, and I'll get to why I have that frame of mind. And it's going to be separate from all the live-action universe stuff. So the Bayverse stuff, the first 5 movies, and the Bumblebee movie, assuming that it's part of the Bay movies, or if it's its own continuity, what they're saying here, it's separate from all of that regardless. Which is kind of confusing almost in itself, really, when you think of it for the mainstream audience. For us, we're used to multiple continuities, but for them, something that's synergized in one coherent universe, might be confusing for them. This is obviously going to be an origin story. So what we're going to have a War for Cybertron, War Within kind of prequel story, a pre-Cybertron story. And it says here the relationship between Optimus Prime and Megatron, probably maybe what broke out the war and how everything started. Now let's get into the people that have been announced that involved. So first let's talk Josh Cooley. Now Josh Cooley, for the longest time, all he was a storyboard artist. He worked on The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, Up, and Cars 2 as a storyboard artist. He got his first writing and directing opportunity with Pixar when he did the short film George and AJ in 2009. You could find it online to watch. It's actually not too bad. Then he did screenplays for Inside Out, and he then got to do writing and directing again for another Pixar film called Riley's First Date. I have not seen that, so I don't know how that was. Of course, he then went on to direct and write for Toy Story 4, which then won an Oscar for Best Animated Film at the Academy Awards in 2020. So, hey, that's good stuff. Mind you, the stuff he was up against wasn't that great anyways, compared to Toy Story 4, but point is he won. Also, a fun side note is he also was a story editor on the Toy Story short film Small Fry. Now, for people that don't know what Small Fry was, that was the one where it was a short film that Woody and the crew went to a fast food restaurant and got lost, and they found all these weird fast food toys, and one of them was T-Bone from the Steak Force, which was a Transformer McChangeable steak. So it's kind of funny that the guy who was the story editor exclusively on that one Toy Story short was the one that had the transforming robot McChangeable in it. So interesting coincidence there. Now, as it pertains to the two writers here, and why I cut in at one point. Andrew Barrer and Gabriel Ferrari. Here's the thing. They actually didn't really work on the Ant-Man franchise itself. Both of them together, out of everything that could be really like written and documented by them, they've done some writing for shorts. They've done some writing for horror stuff, all low budget. And then they were the writers together on Ant-Man and Wasp. Everything else they've done up to this point is all in pre-production, so we have no real measuring stick of what they're capable of outside of Ant-Man and Wasp. So if you like Ant-Man and Wasp, that might give you a little bit of an idea of how they are as writers, but otherwise, you know, they're in the writing room, so I'm pretty sure there's other hands in the proverbial pot, so to speak. And I like what they say here, how because of what's going on now with the Big V, animated movies are a more preferred way to have production because you don't need to be in person. Everything can be done online. It's kind of the same thing with comics. When you ever see with the comic industry, today no one's in the same room. Everyone is literally on other sides of the globe, and a whole comic gets put together, despite they're all, you know, in front of their computers and other places around the world. So it's probably the same thing here with animated films, and this is good news. This is exactly what I would want. I want an animated feature. I want something on Cybertron that leads to no human characters, and 100%, if there is going to be lines, it's going to be the robots. You know, that's the one vice that I had with the 5, you know, Michael Bay films and the Bumblebee film, is because you have human characters, there's just this obligation that they have to have 80 to 90% of the lines in the movie, and that leads to almost no characterization. Even the Bumblebee movie, while Bumblebee did get his fair share of screen time, it still was the story of all the human characters, John Cena and the whole crew, Hillary. So that being said, this is great news. I'm really excited to hear about this, an origin story. Hey, and hopefully if this really does well, it might just lead to Hasbro going, you know what, maybe this is what we should have done to begin with. If this movie gets the attention, the money, the audience, that would be great. Unfortunately, and this is just the realist in me, when I look at how successful, let's say, the Spider-Man movies have done thus far, and then Into the Spider-Verse came out knee deep in the middle of that, you know, that Infinity War, Infinity hype and everything, and it didn't do as well as the Spider-Man movies. So it's something that I'm still worried that the world is not 100% open to animation yet. There still is the stigma with certain individuals that rather not watch something animated, and I know I meet those people all the time. There still is an audience that will go see every Marvel movie, but if one of them is animated, they won't see it because it's a cartoon and cartoons are for children, and they have that stigma in their mind. So let's just hope that somehow the break away from that, and we'll be able to get some crazy, awesome, you know, pre-war Cybertronian movie, and we'll get to see all these cool characters and everything fleshed out. And hey, at the end of the day, it's the guys who worked on Toy Story, so maybe it'll lead to some good animation and some good-looking toys, and we'll all be happy in the end to get what we've all been waiting for since all of this craziness started in 2007.